Bismillah. If there are any questions, if not, Fadal.
Question is, Zaki from Toronto, Canada. I saw your video on the use of toys during marital relations. Are they also usable during her menstruation? And is anal haram if it's using a toy? Thanks, Afi.
Tayyip. What's the last name of the questioner? Or the last initial?
AS.
طيب السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد. Questioner is alhamdulillah courageous and brave. I'm sure the questioner, whether it's a he or she, is asking the question that many people want to, or just too afraid or too scared or too embarrassed. So that's a good thing. طيب. And alhamdulillah, they're basing this question off of a previous session on Mufti Q&A. Okay, and I believe that question came from Europe, if I'm not mistaken, Sweden. Yeah. Maybe I'm mistaken. So yeah. With regards to certain practices between a husband and wife, with regards to that which is called in our modern times of sex toys, different practices, different instruments, tools, beads, things like this, dildos, vibrators, all things like this. This was the question. So alhamdulillah, the questioner is basing their question off of a previous session, and they're trying to get further clarification and further breakdown. And this is a good thing. It's a good thing from so many aspects to do it like this, and to go back to the original one who said what he said, instead of going to someone else seeking clarification. And as wise man once said, he said, what? Good food brings courage. Good food does what? Produces courage. So he ate good the first time. Now he has the courage to what? Ask more and get more detail. So that's a good thing. It's a commendable thing. And there's no shyness when it comes to asking about something that you may be interested in or involved in, and you're afraid that it's halal. So there's nothing wrong with that. As long as it's done in a proper way with the proper what? Etiquettes. So to keep things brief, any type of sexual practice or sexual act of intimacy or foreplay or anything, a toy or not, that is permissible to do with your wife, then it's going to be permissible to do when she's menstruating and when she isn't menstruating, with exceptions to vaginal insertion. With exceptions to vaginal insertion. And that's because you're to avoid that place, period. The blood of menstruation is to be avoided, period. As far as that which is not vaginal insertion, and it is originally permissible, then it's going to remain to be permissible. As far as if it was originally haram, then it's now also be haram. Everybody understand this or not? Everybody clear on this? Tight. As far as things that aren't necessarily vaginal penetration or insertion, but it may lead to coming in contact with the blood of menstruation, then that should be avoided. But that which does not lead to insertion or penetration, it doesn't pertain to the blood, and whether it's a screen or how you do it or the part of the body, that's the ruling. Tight. As far as is it permissible for a person to use a sex toy and insert it into one's anus, the ulama of Islam, they say, obviously, anal sex, there are many narrations prohibiting it and mentioning that it's from the major sins in Islam, and that a person who does is cursed, and Allah will not look towards a man who does that. But the question is now, is it permissible for a person to insert something else into his wife's anus besides actual anal sex, such as a finger or a toy or something like this? I'm just going to be honest with you and upfront with you, from that which I've read from the speech of the ulama and that which I've heard from their lectures or in person, etc. They say that there's a difference between anal insertion, meaning sex, and a person using a finger. And many of them, they say that it should be avoided. You shouldn't do it. But they say that it's not necessarily haram. It isn't necessarily what? Haram. You clear on that or not? They say that it's not necessarily what? Haram, but it isn't something that takes the same ruling as actual anal sexual penetration. Everybody clear on this or not? Tell you. Also, going back to the fact what we just mentioned about menstruation and period. There's certain things and certain acts that if you do and when you do them, it's going to lead to what? The spreading and contact of blood. Now, one may say, does a toy, does a dildo have the same ruling as a finger with regards to anal insertion? One may say it does. One may say what? It does, and it's halal. Is it recommended? Is it preferable? Would I tell you to do it? That's not the discussion at hand right now. Everybody clear on this or not? Okay, like we said in the previous video, well, some scholars may say that some of these acts, even though they don't have specific proof to censure them and to negate the permissibility of performing them, some of them say this animalistic, or it's imitating the kuffar, or it's imitating a type of sickness and perversion, and the whole culture of toys and certain practices and certain statements and certain things it comes from sexual perversion. And the people who made them popular and famous and widespread in social media or in the movies or pornography comes from actual perversion. Now, when you read about pornography and where it came from and how it came about, you read about the Greeks and the Romans, homosexuality, lesbianism, the different statues, Norse gods and things like this with their private areas open. You read the history of this. And then you read how it translates into the modern time. Playboy magazine, internet pornography, to this day. How every generation leads to what? To the next. Everybody understand this? Sculptures, paintings, carvings, sex pots, sex bowls. These things are ancient. They're what? Ancient. As long as this old cup came from this century and this golden foot pail to wash the noble king's feet in, they also had sexual perversion back then. Read. You'll find books like this in which they talk about artifacts of sexual pornography. And it translates into something new and modern. From a pot to a bowl to a carving to a painting on the wall to cards to magazines to phone. Everybody clear on this or not? It's all in one, train of thought. Everybody understand this? And it's crucially important to understand history. And this is one of the greatest things that we try to promote in HadithDisciple. We say all the time. We talk about what? History. All of the time. Where did this act come from? Where did this statement come from? And being careful saying something's permissible or haram because you yourself don't know the actual what? History behind this. So with that being said, many people today, they say that anyone who's involved with pornography, or most people that are involved with pornography, whether they're porn stars, porn actors or actresses, people who watch and spend hours out of their day watching pornography, they say in most cases, 8 out of 10, is someone that was molested when they were younger. Someone that was sexually abused and taken advantage of when they were younger. This is what they say. This is what the experts say. They say not all, and there is some porn stars or porn actresses, they write about their lives, they do interviews, and they say nothing ever happened to me when I was younger. But the experts say that most of them are what? Have some type of encounter when they were what? Younger. So the point I'm trying to get to is what, brothers and sisters? The point is one point and one point only. Is that many of these practices and acts and these things that only became known and popular through these pornographic movies, they're based off of what? Perversion. They're based off of dhulm. The person didn't start to think about this act or this toy or this type of clothing or a whip and chain and this and that, except because of what? He was mentally perverted at a young age. Everybody understand the point I'm trying to get to or not? So this is one of the rationale, one of the ways a person uses to say these things are haram. Or if they're not haram, they're makruh, at least, because they're based off of sickness. The person did not start to think like this except because they were 5 years old or 10 years old. A woman molested this man and went against his will, manipulated him and played with his genitals in school or at the summer camp or in the Boy Scouts. And then he grew up wanting to do this and wanting to do that with other women, other men. Everybody understand this? That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is somebody may say, if a person has this type of desire, regardless of whether it comes from pornography or not, which is almost impossible because most things that people get and do comes from what? Comes from that source. Everybody understand this? It's a statistic. I don't know about Canada or the UK, but in America, that's how it is. Your grandfather, your uncle, your big brother, he has these magazines under the bed or in the barber shop or in the garage or in the attic. And you yourself, you're a simple, pure-hearted boy, and you just what? Stumble upon him. You start looking at the magazine, and next thing you know, from 10, 11, 12 to a grown man, you're stuck upon that. It was two ways of dealing with it now. We can deal with it the realistic way, or we can sugarcoat it and have fake piety. Am I making something to Kobe? Right among Sadiq. In the barbershop, there's a stack of what? Playboy magazines. And that's how the average young man comes across it. That's how the average young man what? Comes across. As far as a girl, then the same applies as well. An older guy kisses her, touches her, spit in the bottle, catch a girl. This is reality. It's how people grow up. Okay? Someone exposes you to lesbianism. They expose you to pornography. Hey, check this video out. And you don't like it at first. Then you see it again, and next thing you know, even if you're not hooked on it, but the idea of this sexual act and this position or this toy is now... Okay, and I'm not a psychologist, but if you speak to them, you'll be shocked when they talk about the levels of the brain and the release of dopamine from watching these things. But we don't have enough time to discuss this in detail. The most important thing is what? Somebody may say that these things are haram based off of that. And others may say if that's what stimulates you, that is your lawful spouse, that's what you like to do. You like to be tied up and whipped and beat by your spouse. And it's not against nothing that's against the Quran and Sunnah. There's no clear text, and they say what? Tafaddal. Everybody understand this? That's not my opinion. That's not my advice. But you can't dictate upon the next person your specific. Everybody understand this? If it was up to me, I just have cracked black pepper and sea salt. No, to you that's bland. You got to put this spice and this color and fry it like this, onions and garlic and sauce. So I cannot force my taste to what? Upon you, as long as it's not against Quran and Sunnah and Ijma'. Khamr, alcohol, flesh of swine, this unlawful type of animal, that's a different story. You season it with 10 seasons. The meat is now the color of Abu Sa'id's shirt. Literally. Literally. That bright orange. And to some people they say this is how food is supposed to taste. Me, I say that the food is supposed to be the color of what? My thobe. Simple and plain. That's all a steak needs. Black pepper and sea salt. Nothing more. It doesn't need to be marinated. Put it on there, put it on the grill. That's it. But you can't force your opinion and view upon the next what? Individual. So some people, they may say that as long as it's not a text from Kitab Sunnah, as long as it's not consensus, and it's your wife, it's your husband, then it's what? Permissible to use whatever you like to use, as we previously explained. Those are the answers to those questions with a bit more information, shedding light upon these serious issues, and it's much deeper than just a question and an answer. But it's an ideological attack upon the human being, upon religion, upon Islam, and upon youth. Pay close attention. The first is the attack on what? Humans, not religion. Humans, to destroy people. And then those who attach themselves to a what? To a religion. Christianity, whatever that religion is. And then to specifically attack and hurt Muslims. And most importantly from among the Muslims, the what? The youth. So we have to be mindful of this. For or against. Don't get married. Or it's permissible to do this and watch this and enjoying this. Everybody can understand. There are other people who try to push you away from the fitrah. Away from the fitrah. You shouldn't like girls. You're lustful. That's lustful. You shouldn't do that. It's no need for you to know this about your wife. It's no need for you to see this part of your wife's body. It's no people they say this. This is a reality. There's no need for you to have this type of desire for your wife. And that's also trying to brainwash what? The Muslim youth. And take them away from their manly or womanly fitrah. Everybody got this? With Allah Azza wa Jalla is all success. I'm taking one more inshallah.
MR from the UK. Are foods containing rice vinegar, cider vinegar, spirit vinegar, white bread, wine vinegar, or white wine halal? Also, if soy sauce contains ethanol, is it permissible to consume these foods? For example, sushi.
What time is the Iqamah? In 4 minutes. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As we've explained before, there are many foods that we eat on a daily basis that have ingredients or agents or additives which are at least doubtful, at least. Some are clearly disliked and some are clearly haram. One of the modern day phenomena we have is the halal pizzeria. The halal what? The halal pizzeria, in which you can enjoy your halal pepperoni, halal sausage, halal beef bacon, halal ham with pineapple, etc. And they said, our meat is halal. And all the Muslim youth, they go out and they hang out there, alhamdulillah. We can't go to Pizza Hut, we can't eat at Domino's, we can't eat Luigi's or this one or that one. We have, what's the name of the pizzeria? No, the Muslim one.
With 2 rows.
It gotta be an Islamic Arabic name. Alameen's Pizza. For example, right? Tight. So the halal, the meat is halal, alhamdulillah. But often people don't, no, not even the cheese, the bread. What are the ingredients that go into commercial bread or dough? Yeast. Yeast comes from what? The act of what? Fermenting something. It's fermented. Just like alcohol is made through fermenting. So you got to be mindful. We didn't get into the cheese. The enzymes that come from what? In the cheese. Why is there so much grease from cheese? The sauce. And the list goes on. So we have to be careful of taking one thing, sticking to one thing, and being blinded from what? 5 other things. So the pepperoni is halal, but the cheese comes from pork enzyme, pig, the intestines of a pig, or a bone marrow from a cow. Was the cow slaughtered permissible in the manner of zabiha? No, it wasn't. You're not buying your flour or your white sugar from Muslims. It comes from kuffar. Rather, the Muslims who distribute it, they buy it from what? A bigger distributor from? So we have to be careful of that. With regards to soy sauce, okay? Vinegar is haram, but soy sauce is permissible. What's the difference? What's important is that there's a difference between an actual khamr. I'm drinking khamr. I'm getting intoxicated. I take a cup of this. This is wine. 1 cup doesn't get me drunk. But 2 cups may get me drunk, depending on my age, my height, my weight, and what type of drinker I am. 3 cups may take to get me tipsy. 5 cups, I'm what? No. You said floating? Tight. Allah Mustaan. Everybody understand this or not? So let's ask ourselves the question. With regards to ethanol, soy sauce, or vinegar, or vinaigrette, whatever you're using, how many cups can you drink before you can get drunk? Can you live after drinking gallons of vinegar? Or fish and chips with beer batter. How many pieces of fish can you eat before you start to get what? Drunk. Is it possible? Everybody clear on this or not? Just think, is it possible for you to even get drunk like that? Are you coming in direct contact with the actual khamr that's in it? So these are principles that help you understand these issues. Principles that help you what? Understand the issues. I can get drunk by having this in abundance. So a little bit of it is haram. A little bit of it, no, not permissible. A little bit of it is what? Tight. Let's carefully. This in my cup right now, let's say this is red wine or white wine. A little sip is not going to hurt. It's good for digestion. It's good for the heart. It's good for the blood, so on and so forth. It's from my culture. What's the problem? It's not, I'm not drunk. I'm not cursing. I'm not fornicating. I'm not fighting. And that is a fact. It doesn't get you drunk. But if you take a second and a third and a fourth, then there lies no doubt you're on the way of getting what now? Drunk. Everybody doing this or not? And you can drink many, many cups and get drunker and drunker and drunker, and all of the problems of drunkenness will now present themselves. Of cursing, of becoming loose, of fighting, of getting stabbed, of crashing, of getting hit. Everybody doing this or not? Tell you, if I have this bottle of soy sauce or rubbing alcohol or ethanol, how many cups can I pour until I get drunk? How many? Is it even possible to drink 4, 5, 6 cups and not die or get seriously injured? Everybody understand this or not? Fish and chips. The original British or Irish or Scottish recipe for fish and chips involves what? Beer. And there's a scientific reason behind that. What the beer does with the breading, the coating, the grease. It's a wisdom behind them using that type of what? Soda. Everybody understand this? How many pieces of fish will I eat until I get drunk? Or a plate of shrimp scampi. Will I get drunk if I have 3, 4, 5, 6 different plates? Will I get drunk? You're not going to get drunk at all. Everybody understand the Islamic principle now? There's no way that you can what? Get drunk. Everybody understand this? The percentage of beer in one piece of fried fish. Everybody understand this? And the same applies to other things as well. If I have salad with vinegar on it, or I marinate some meat, do I taste the alcohol? Can I get drunk? Is the alcohol in its original state? Is it in its original form? And this same rule applies to nutmeg and many, many other ingredients and products. So what's important is, if I say yes or no, other issues can pop up. Other people, speakers, scholars, students of knowledge, they can give their views. What I'm going to give you right now, right here, is principles. A principle in which you yourself can take 5 or 6 different issues and apply them. Or even if you can't apply it and determine it yourself, at least it helps you to do what? Understand why it is haram to have this drink. Why it's permissible to take this medicine. Everybody understand this or not? And I think that's a pretty clear principle with regards to the Islamic wisdom of having a little bit of alcohol to be haram, because it leads to shrimp scampi does not lead you to what? No matter how much you eat of it. Everybody clear on this or not? So these are some principles to be understood with regards to soy sauce, with regards to vinegar, apple cider vinegar, so on and so forth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should knows best. This is in brief. We don't have much time. Questions are many. Time is limited. Allah Azza wa Jalla is the one who gives success. We ask Him for that. Sallallahu sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina wa imamina Muhammad.